Hello and welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to show you how to install Xastir, which is an APRS client, on a Raspberry Pi setup here. So this is Raspberry Pi with the Raspbian Buster operating system, which is currently the latest one, I believe, and we're going to go through the process of downloading and installing Xastir, which is a Linux APRS client. So we'll begin by going to the terminal here, and in here we're going to search the repository for Xastir and then install it. Now Xastir can be installed in several ways. It is actually on the internet, and you can download it from a source file on Git, on the GitHub, and make it from there, although I do tend to find that can be troublesome and problematic. So I would recommend, even though it might be a slightly older version, downloading it from the repositories for Linux, and then at least you're getting the whole package and it should just work out of the box. So that's what we're going to do today. To begin with, we're going to search the repository for Xastir, and this is how you can search for any program. So we go to the command line here and type apt, which is the repository tool search, because we want it to search, and Xastir, which is the name of the program. So we give that a minute to search through, and it's found Xastir there. It's found Direwolf as well, which we'll do a separate video on. It's found Xastir, and it's found Xastir-data. Now you may find things like this happen where there's several entries that come up and you want to find the main program. So in this situation it's Xastir stable. The Xastir-data is clearly part of the package most likely, but Xastir itself is what we want to download and install. So we're going to type sudo apt install Xastir. Sudo is requesting a higher authority permission in order to install something on the system. Apt is the repository search tool. We're instructing it to install the program, and this program name is Xastir. Okay, so that's what all that means. I'm going to hit enter, and it will start installing it. Sometimes it'll ask for your main password, sometimes not. In this case it hasn't asked. So it's just asking, are we happy for it to do this? Yes. And it will go ahead and start installing on the system. So going to the repository, there should be several benefits, as I mentioned. It's going to install the whole thing, and it's already sort of put together, so there's not going to be any faffing around, hopefully, or very little. And we've got to this point here where it's asking about configuring Xastir. It's mentioning that Xastir can be installed, and it recommends not running it as root, which is the super user permission, because it might be a security risk. So we're aware of that. All it needs us to do is to click OK. And should non-super users be able to use native AX25 interfaces? Yes, we've not got this on a machine where there's lots of people accessing it, so there isn't really any risk there. So we're going ahead and downloading and installing all of this, and once this is installed, I'll show you how to configure it and get it up and running. Now there's several ways that programs like this can run. It can be run connected to what's called a TNC, a terminal node controller, running in what's called KISS mode, which just passes the information straight through. It can also be run with something like Direwolf, which is a software TNC. Again, does a similar job, but instead of a separate box on your desk, it's done through software. I tend to find a lot of people have problems setting that up, though, the software side of things. Having a physical TNC at the moment, if you can find a used one, they quite often go for a very reasonable price, and that's what I would recommend, buying a separate box, just connecting it, and away you go. However, we will be going through the software TNCs at a later date. So it's finished installing here, and if we go to the menu at the top left here, oops, clicking on too many things. For some reason my menu has been squished, but won't worry about that. Okay, so it's kindly put a shortcut in the menu bar here under Internet. I'm going to click on this option, and it's not found it. Right, okay, so the next step is we're going to take a look in here and see what it's done with it. Okay, permission denied. Okay, so we're up and running. Now, one of the things I've done here that we need to do is there's a group called the Dial Out group, and you have to be a member of it in order to be able to operate something like this. So we're going to add ourselves to the Dial Out group. Now, on this here, I'll just clear the screen. You'll notice that my username is Pi at Raspberry. Raspberry is the name of this computer. So Pi at Raspberry, and if you've just bought a Raspberry Pi, yours will be similar. We're going to type the following: sudo user mod a g dial out, and then your username. Excuse me, not user mod. Let's add user. Let's try that. Add user. So we're adding to a group called Dial Out, and our name is Pi. So we've got an error here. So it's the group that goes last. Right. So let's switch this around. Pi is our username, and Dial Out is the group. Let's try that. Okay, so we're currently getting an error here. Add user. So let's try groups Pi. So we're already a member of the Dial Out group. Okay, that's fine. So why won't it let us run this? Let's just try this again. Permission denied. So we're going to have a look at the long information and Xastir. And here we can see that Xastir is a member of the Xastir-AX25 group, as it mentions here. So we need to add ourselves to that group as well. So I'll just go back and describe what I've done here. Okay, so you may or may not need to do this. I presume you will, since I've had to do this. Alright, let's go back here. So when I typed in Xastir here for it to run the program, it told me that the permission was denied, and it told me that it's in this file here, in this tree, if you like. So I changed directory, which is cd, to user/bin. So you've got to type it exactly like this, and that dropped me in the bin file here. so that I could look in it and see Xastir. So this is everything in the bin file. I typed ls for list storage. This listed everything in that file. Now as you can see, there's a lot of things, but somewhere in here is Xastir. Oh, there we are. Oops. Just seen it somewhere. Sorry, this keyboard's a bit finicky. Here we go. So Xastir, it's right there. So we know it's there. And I typed in ls-l, which is list in long format. And long format gives you more detail. And what this is telling us here is that what kind of permissions there are for the user, the group and everybody. So the user has got full permissions, the group has got partial permissions, and everybody else has nothing, no access. It's owned by root, which is the main system, and the group it's in is Xastir-AX25. So we've added ourselves to the dial out group, which we needed anyway. We now need to add ourselves to this group, so sudo add user add to group, and then we're going to type in this Xastir-AX25 as you see there. Okay, so that's the group. In fact, we need user and then group, so we're going to type pi and then Xastir, and that should add us to that group. Now, this doesn't happen instantly. I believe you need the system to restart. So we'll just take a look here. Nope, so we need to log out and then log in again in order for this to take effect. So if we go to shut down and reboot, or log out actually would have been better, and then log back in again. So we'll make our way through this, and then once it's reread everything, we should have the permissions we need to do this. Now bear in mind, this is a little bit of a faff, and hopefully following along here, this is the only thing that you'll have to do in addition to the actual installation. So if we go to, I don't know why I've lost my thing at the top there, but who knows. Right, if we go to Xastir, okay, for some reason it only aims it at desktop icon. Right, let's try this again. Xastir, still permission denied. Right. So if we use it with the sudo and then Xastir, it does work. Okay, so we're up and running. So this is Xastir. We would go in and click in configure here in the file menu, station, and in here we can type in our call sign. Okay, so whatever you want the call sign to be. On the map itself, if I say I lived in Nottingham here, I can actually drag a square over the area, and I'm actually going to just pick a place at random here, but you would go to where you actually live on the map. Now this is one thing you'll notice with Xastir: it is slow to A, download the tiles for the map, and B, when they are actually downloaded, it does seem to be quite slow in rendering them. So this is one downside with that Xastir. I don't know why it's slow. Right, so if we look at anywhere in here and right click on move my station here, and then move my station, it will actually plop your station where you clicked. We can then go to file, configure, station, and then in this section here, this is your latitude and longitude. We click calculate, and again here, and this will pull down all the information from the map of where you've placed your figure. So we then click OK, and that saves all that information. So you're placing your figure where you live, and from the placing of that figure it pulls all the data, so you don't have to look up your latitude and longitude, which can be a bit of a pain. This calculates it all for you. You can put in here your power and height and gain, etc., or you could just leave it as disabled. It's not critical. You can put in any comments for your station here, your name, anything like that. And position ambiguity I tend to leave as none, but you can actually alter so that it will vary each time somebody looks it up, so your home address won't be revealed there. So we click OK. Alright, so let's have a look through the menus here. Now when it first downloads you may not have a map as you see here. If you go to Map Chooser, you want to select the online options here and click OK, and that will hopefully retrieve the map data for you as well. If we go here to interface, we can add an interface control. So we go to add, and initially we're just going to add the internet connection. So we go to internet server, add. The APRS rotate here is fine. Allow transmittings on, yes, etc. Your passcode, and this will be related to your call sign, and you can look this up on the internet. If you type in APRS passcode, put your call sign in, it will generate a number. So that's fine. Right, so this has added this particular interface, but you'll notice it says down here. So we need to start it so it's operational and up, and then close. So this has now connected us to the internet for traffic, and you should start seeing other stations appear. So we'll zoom out from this Nottingham location. And you'll see there's other stations appearing as they beacon out. We are now hearing them through the internet. And if you just want a system like this that's a map that shows you what's out there just listening, this is all you need to do. You can in fact transmit as well. If we go to interface and transmit now, that will post out a beacon so that other people can see you on the system, and you're now live on the system. If you would like to add radio to the interface control, so you're doing it with RF, you click add, and then depending on what you've got set up, you need to add one of these other systems. So let's say you've got a serial KISS TNC attached. You can add that, again filling in your settings here, the port that it's connected to, and the port settings here, the speed, usually it's 9600 BPS. Here everything's disabled except for RF or internet or vice versa. You want to allow everything, which is this one here. This section can be left OK, and if it's a KISS TNC, initializing KISS on startup is a good thing to tick, which means you won't have to manually go into the TNC and switch it to KISS mode. This will do it for you. Okay, we're going to click OK, and now we have the second line here, and again this can be started clicking the start button. I do not have a TNC connected at the moment, so it won't actually start it up. However, you'll see that go up as well, so it'll be using both at once, and this is fine. We can click close, and as you can see the screen's now populating. One thing you might want to get rid of is these blue lines on the screen, and if we go to map and enable map grid and click on that, that will turn that off. So that's a bit clearer to see there. So I'll just click in, which zooms in, There we go. We have out, and then we have left and right, up and down arrows here to control it. So pretty straightforward. Nice maps. You'll see moving stations, etc., and this will constantly update while ever it's running. And that's Xastir. Very easy to set up. The one thing you must do with this particular system is when you go to finish, you go to configure, file configure, go to save config now. Otherwise it will forget what you've typed in, and you'll have to set it up again. Okay, so this is Xastir, and this has been around a long time, long-standing system, very capable, lots of settings, lots of options. It can be quite daunting at first because there are a lot of boxes to tick and options here. And one thing in particular that people struggle with is the maps. Now, one thing you can do is download maps off the internet from Open Maps and places like that, and add it to a particular file in the Xastir directories, and that will then give you access to it from here. And that's exactly what I've done here. I've downloaded some files, these OSM files, and it's using those. And you can download all of the country that you're in, or the whole world, or just a piece of the country, whatever you want. Bear in mind though, it can be a very large file depending on how much maps you download. But then the benefit of that is if you do not have internet where you are, if you go on events and things like that, all the maps are saved to the PC itself, the computer, and therefore it will be able to pull up maps wherever you are, which is great. Completely standalone system. If you are going out and about, you can obviously go into the interface control and turn off the internet interface by clicking stop, and then just have it run on the KISS interface here, which is radio only, and again it will still operate completely independently without the internet. So overall an excellent system. It wasn't too difficult to set up. The one thing that would be nice is to get this to work without having any problems here. So if we go to let's see here, let's just see where it comes up with it. So we've got Xastir there, user bin, and then if we change mode, okay, I'm just going to see if this will work. Okay, here we go, that's great. So what I've done here is, because it was requiring root to operate this, I had to type in sudo Xastir to get it to run. I've gone back into this user bin file, usr bin, and we did that. Let me just go back a second here. Okay, let me start again. So once it was downloaded and ready to go and you were ready to run it, we were having to type sudo Xastir like this. And what that means is I had to get raised permissions in order to run it. So in order to prevent that and allow a normal user and not have to use sudo all the time, I found out where the executable file was, and I did that by typing in where is, all one word, Xastir, and when we hit enter there, you'll see here it shows us that it's in usr/bin and it's Xastir just there. Okay, so if we cd to change directory, we're going to go to this directory here, /usr/bin/. So that means we're looking into that bin file. We type ls to see what's in it. There's a lot of things in it, but the one that we want obviously is the Xastir, which we know is there. just here. And what I then typed was sudo, because we're changing part of the system now, we need the raised permissions to change it, chmod, which is change mode, plus x, which means make it executable for everybody, and then the name of the program. Okay, sudo changed plus x Xastir. When I hit enter, that made it so that Xastir could be executed by anybody, not just root. Alright, so now when we type Xastir without sudo, it works. So that's great, that's just what we want. The next thing we want to do is make the shortcut here work. So when I click on this, it works now, that's great. So it was needing permission to run it, and we didn't have permission, so we kept getting the error. Now we've changed the permissions, it works. So now when you want to run Xastir, you go up to the top here, Internet, Xastir, click on it, and away you go. So that's installing and configuring and running Xastir. Good luck with it, and thanks very much for your time.